Hi students, welcome to another session. So far we are dealing with Unit 2 and methods of psychological inquiry, and in that we have been discussing psychological testing. That is one of the parts of 6 methods which we are discussing, that observational, experimental, correlation, survey research, and then now we are discussing 5th technique, that is psychological testing. In that we have discussed in detail about psychological testing, that is objectivity and systematic, and then reliability, validity and norms of the tests. After these points we have types of tests. In this session, in continuation to the this psychological testing, let us see what are the types of tests available for psychological testing. Okay, so psychological tests are classified on the basis of their language. On the basis of their language, mode of administration, difficulty level. So how they are classified? So based on the language, mode of administration, either online, offline, individual, group, in that one. And difficulty level, tough, hard, easy, medium and hard or tough. So based on the language, like it is verbal or non-verbal, let us see, depending upon the language, we have verbal and non-verbal and performance tests. So how can you define a language whether it is verbal? Verbal means you have to write. Non-verbal means there is no language involved in it. Like there will be pictures, you have to respond. You like verbal tests are for educated, non-verbal tests are for non-educated, uneducated. And performance tests. Performance tests will have different factors involved, and how they based on those factors and your responses, the performance is analyzed, the behavior is analyzed in particular event or the situation. Literacy is required for taking verbal tests, as said, as the items have to be written in some language. If it is Telugu test, you have to understand the Telugu language, etc. in that way. Okay. And then in non-verbal tests, items are made of symbols or pictures. Even that is what I said in the last point. Performance tests requires movement of objects from their respective places in a particular order. Like in a behavior, how you are behaving in an event, and even like dexterity, particularly persons with special needs will be having these performance tests, or children also perform these tests. Okay, so based on the classification, how they are classified into 3 types, that are language, based on the language, based on the mode of administration and difficulty level. Okay, and then we see the difference. Next, depending upon the mode of administration. So first we discussed about the language, now mode of administration. Psychological tests are divided into individual or group of tests. That's what earlier I said. Let us see in detail. Mode of administration, either it is individual or group test. An individual test is administered by the researcher to one person at a time. So how this individual test, for example, say it is very relevant to individual. Group test is like, if you have a child and you have to take an intelligence test, you will call the child and administer intelligence tests individually. But if you want to know intelligence of 8th class students, then how you need not to call every person, right? You can administer directly to the group of 8th class, 8th grade. So group test is such time. While group tests can be administered to large number of persons at the same time, in individual tests, the researchers administer the test face to face. So group test, we have given an example. Individual test, what it will be done in a face to face and remain seated before the test taker and notes down the responses. Even in individual tests, not only the results, the behavior during the test also can be observed by the researcher. How he is performing, what is his choices, what are the body reactions, how is he feeling, anxious or cool, like that you can understand in that way in individual test. In the group test, the instructions about answering the items are questions, etc. are written on the test, which the test taker reads and answers the question accordingly. They will give the instructions to the respondents, and the respondents will log in or choose the page and respond accordingly. The test administrator explains the instructions to the entire group. Even though in individual test also it is single based, and in the group he will explain like standing or in between the group, he will move into the group and send them about the instructions. This is how an individual test is administered, uses, and about the group test. Okay. Next, individual tests are time consuming but are important ways of getting responses from children and from those who do not know the language. Individual tests, it is time consuming. You are using all the resources face to face in a single day. And whether it is individual tests or group tests, it is based on choice. Okay, next, group tests are easy to administer and also less time consuming. You can administer a group test and get hundreds of data within a short period of time. But to individual, it is different condition. And however, the responses are fraught with certain limitations. As group discussions, group administrations, and certain limitations. It is like standardized according to the social conditions or environmental conditions. The respondent may not be motivated enough to answer the questions and may give fake responses, because in a group it is really hard to monitor. Some students will pay, some students will do the work, but even the time constraints, the market constraints, business constraints, based on that the persons will be motivated. Okay, so this is what the individual and group test, particularly in psychological testing, and that too based on the mode of administration. Previously it is language, now it's mode of administration. And now psychological tests are also classified into speed and power tests based on what? Performance. In a speed test, there is a time limit within which the test taker required to answer all the items. Okay, when it is speed, it is about time. Okay, power, it is ability. How much time you are taking to complete the task is a power test. Speed test, it is time bound. So in this one, there is what is that? In speed, there is a limit. Generally, the clock runs behind the test taker, and he will be notified accordingly. Like it is like an exam. In an exam, you have to write or respond in 3 hours. Okay, like that. Such a test evaluates two individuals on the basis of time taken to answer the items accurately. In the speed test, all the items are of same degree of difficulty. On the other hand, power test assesses the underlying ability or power of the individuals by allowing them sufficient time. That is, these tests do not have any time limit. Speed test have time limit, power test there is no time limit. Speed test, how many are your processing in speed test, and how it is about the ability and establishing something. Okay, these tests do not have any time limit. Yes, we studied in the power test. In a power test, the items are generally arranged in an increasing order difficulty. What happens in the power test? Generally, it is ascending order. In answering the subsequent item, it is, however, difficult to construct a pure speed or pure power test. Majority of tests are a combination of both speed and power. As it is difficult to answering subsequent items, that is like speed test and power test, they used a new method called mixed method. That is, even as we can recall in interviews, it should be both open-ended and closed-ended questions, and open-ended and closed-ended uh, tests. Okay, next. While tests are often used in research and for making decisions about the people, tests must be selected and used with great care. The test user or the decision maker should not rely on a single test. So what he said, while tests are often used in research and for making decisions about the people, tests must be selected and used with great care. So you have to be appropriate. You cannot administer mental ability tests for mental retarded or persons in standing in good health. The test user or the decision maker should not rely on any single test. Yes, it should be verified properly. Test data should be combined with information about personal ground, interests, and past performance. Yes, these are the standards which they are giving. And then let's see. Yes, there is an activity. Take a test with its manual and read it carefully. Like you can take any test, intelligence test. There is Beck's stress scale, Beck's anxiety scale. There is removable battery tests. They are there. Okay, just take a test. You can Google it. There are a lot of tests available, and just see what type of test it is, what type of things they are using, like number and types of items, information about reliability, validity, and norms. Reliability, you have to correlate. Validity, also correlation. And norms, what are the instructions given, and what are all involved in it, has to be well prepared. Discuss these with other students and the teacher. So far, I have given this work and no one has turned up. So I try to explain everything in videos. Let us choose the good one for you. So in that, these with other students, you may discuss with the classroom and find out which method is really useful and playable. So that is what this session is. It dealt with the types of psychological testing. In psychological testing, contradiction or continuation. These type of things are very much needed for this thing, and most oftenly psychological testing is reused about the engine so far. It is just refined, and you have to be more cautious and more learning. More examples are invited to understand about these types of tests. So hope you understand that, and let's move to the last method case study in the next session. Thank you so much. Have a great day.